Congratulations, it's a boy! Just about nearly 26 years too late. Yay! If you watched my previous video on this topic, you guys will know how much this means to me. Congratulations on your gender recognition certificate. Male. Okay, so now the mushy bit's out the way. Hey Spuds, how's it going? It's Jamie, welcome back to another video. Thank you for clicking on this video. My hoodie says Stranger Things on it. It's from Primark, I love it. I realise how often I talk about jumpers, hoodies, sweatshirts, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. These things that you wear on top that typically have long sleeves and are warmer. But this video is not about jumpers. This video is about how I legally changed my sex. Today I'm going to be talking about how it was possible, what I did, the whole process, and what it means. Spoiler, the most exciting thing it means for me is that I can now get married as a man to my partner Shaba, and that's very exciting and very important as our wedding is this year. Also, to note, before the inevitable comments get left, I am not trying to claim that I have magically changed my chromosomes. Not that I know what they are, but anyway, I'm not trying to claim that. This is legal sex that I'm talking about. I changed my legal sex. But what that means is, for all intents and purposes, apart from a doctor and my partner, nobody needs to know. So how is this possible? Well, in the UK there is something called the Gender Recognition Act of 2004, and what the Gender Recognition Act allows trans people, binary trans people, is bit behind with the non-binary trans people, which is unfortunate, but hopefully we'll get there one day. But with binary trans people, it means that you can legally change your sex on your birth certificate, your gender everywhere, to the gender you identify as. So for a trans man like me, that would be to male, and be recognised everywhere as a man and as male. And this is recognised through a gender recognition certificate, which nobody's actually allowed to ask to see. You get sent it, you have it, it allows you to get a new birth certificate and things like that, but the actual recognition certificate, that is yours. There is going to be a lot of terms in this video. It's quite a heavy video in terms of information, so strap yourself in. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's not. It's just hopefully not going to be a boring ride. I will try and make it as entertaining as possible while still being informative. And apologies for any confusion that may occur along the way. I was going to say something like, just put your hand up or shout out, let me know if it's confusing, but you can't because you're watching this after I've made it. But I guess you could just pause the video and go back or Google. I don't know what I'm talking about now. As I said, a gender recognition certificate, once obtained, allows a binary trans person to be legally recognised as the sex that matches their gender, and to be legally recognised as that gender in all capacities. So for a trans man, that would be being legally recognised as a man and as male, and for a trans woman, that would be legally being recognised as a woman and female. And yes, woman and female, man and male. Both terms are used in this whole legal process. Some important information about having a gender recognition certificate includes, I will need to refer to some notes because there is a lot of information. You can get married as your gender. So for me, I can now get married as a man. If somebody learns about a trans person having a gender recognition certificate through official means, and this might be through tax or marriage or something like that, I'm not really sure, but if it's learned through official means, they may be breaking the law by sharing the information about that with other people. So it's quite a confidential thing to have a gender recognition certificate, and from the day you get it, there are very, very few scenarios where anybody needs to know that you are trans. If you break the law, you will now be sent to the prison that matches your legal sex. That was my computer turning on, it just updated. You can retire and receive a pension that is outlined as being the one for your gender. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but that's just because I've not looked into pensions in the UK. Probably should at some point though. And importantly, under the Equality Act of 2010, it is unlawful discrimination to treat a transgender person unfavourably because they are transgender, because being transgender is a protected characteristic. Basically, what it means is don't be a dick to trans people. How do you get one? And by one, I mean a gender recognition certificate. There are several requirements that you have to meet in order to be able to apply. It can be very expensive and it feels very invasive, and really that pretty much sums up a lot of processes to do with being trans. So as a rundown, this is how my application went start to finish. Firstly, I had to check that I met that criteria, requirements, the set bar, the hoops, make sure I could jump through the hoops of fire. And this is the criteria for the standard track. There are different tracks depending on your marital status, previous marital status, where you were born, that kind of thing, because you can apply if you were born overseas, but it's a slightly different application process. So those requirements that I had to make sure that I met were you had to have or have had gender dysphoria. You need to have lived full-time, in role, everywhere, everything, as the gender you identify as for at least 2 years. And you need to intend to live permanently as your gender until death. Then I filled in the big chunky application form. The link to that is also in the description box. It's not overly complicated. I think on some of the different tracks, the certain bits are a little bit more complicated, but it's not the worst form in the world. It's just quite hefty. There's a lot of paper, there's a lot of stuff to fill in. And you need to make sure it's all correct, that's very important. Once I had that form completed, I gathered all the evidence I needed to prove I had been living as male for at least 2 years. This evidence can include, and I will read these so that I get them all, passport, driving license, pay slips, pension or tax letters, utility bills, academic certificates or documents, healthcare or identity cards, etc. Basically anything formal that proves your identity or your name, or that you're doing official things like banking in the gender you identify as and using that name. Then I had to gather 2 medical reports. Yes, 2. They don't trust just one doctor, it has to be 2. One has to be from a medical professional who specialises in all things trans, medically, or counsellor-y, healthcare-y, that kind of thing. They just need to specialise in gender. Typically, the easiest person to ask for this is somebody that you see at the gender identity clinic you go to. The second can be from any medical or healthcare professional. I asked my general practitioner, just the doctor down at my local doctor's surgery. You could ask anybody who is a medical professional or healthcare professional. I was going to list some, but I want to make sure I don't give you incorrect information, just in case I say something that's completely just wrong. What these medical reports need to both state is that you've had a diagnosis of gender dysphoria and that you have an intention to live as your gender permanently. They also need to outline any treatment you may have received, but as far as I am aware, you do not need to have gone through any kind of medical treatment to apply for this. It's all about living in role and having a diagnosis of gender dysphoria and having those medical reports to back those things up. Then I did a statutory, can't say it. Then I did a statutory declaration. And this was the bit that really tripped me up a few years ago. There didn't used to be templates online that are now. I will leave a link in the description box. But I printed out the template, crossed it out, made it relevant to myself, like you cross out the wrong pronouns and stuff, and then you take it down to a solicitor's, you pay them some money, you read some bits, and you sign it, they sign it, happy days, you send it away, woohoo! Then I got all of those things together, the form, the evidence, the medical report, and the statutory declaration, gathered them up and put them in an envelope and sent it off. Next day delivery, first class, get it there as quick as possible and as safely as possible. So yeah, that's a very quick, probably rather boring rundown of the process to apply. That's everything you need to go through. It is quite a lot. Now, what we're going to get onto next are timelines and costs. But before we do that, here is a joke to break the monotony of all this heavy information, because I'm really paranoid this video is going to be boring. Ta-da! Welcome back to the post joke that was still relevant to the video part of the video. So in terms of timeline, it took me a very long time to get all of that stuff together to post off, but that's just because I was slow and I got very confused about the whole process. But once it was shipped off, from the day I posted it to like the day I got my gender recognition certificate through, it was like a few months. It really didn't take that long. The time went by very quickly. It might have even been less than a few months. I can't really remember. It was very quick. Much quicker than I thought it would be. It's not like 2 weeks. It's longer than that. It's a good couple months, but you know, it was quick. And then it was a couple months after that I got my birth certificates, but that, and I say certificates because I ordered more than one copy in case I lose one, but that can go quicker. I just took ages to fill in the form. Again, I'm really slow at getting around to doing stuff. Costs. Cost, the dollar. It can cost a lot. The application itself is £140, but you can get this fee waived if you meet certain like income criteria, so definitely look into that. But there are other costs involved. Getting your statutory declaration witnessed and signed by a solicitor, if you take in a template yourself, costs £5. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be a lot to some people, and it's not a fee that you can get waived. It's something you will have to pay. And if you can't find a template, or the template doesn't work for whatever reason, and you want the solicitor to do it for you just to be extra sure it's all good, it will cost £50 for them to write it. The application people, the people that deal with the applications and give the information, I guess that's just the government, isn't it? They strongly recommend that you use special next day delivery, or at least some kind of recorded delivery, which is what I did, and it cost me about £6 to send off like an A4 envelope that it was quite thick. I mean, it wasn't that thick. That's like a book. It was more like that. There was a lot in it. Then the new copies of your birth certificate will cost money as well. Each copy is £11, but if you want it quickly, which I did because we had to give notice for our wedding, and then I didn't need it in the end, but anyway. I paid £35 for a fast track one and £11 for a normal one, and they both arrive fast tracked, so that was an extra £46, but it could be as little as 11 if you just want one copy, or £22 if you want two. I also had an extra cost that isn't universally necessary, but I went privately for testosterone and top surgery, and when I got my medical report written, I was not registered at a NHS clinic, so my report was written several years ago by the private clinic doctor that I used to see, and it cost me about £130. So it's not a cost everybody will have. I can't guarantee that a doctor at the NHS clinics will write it for free, but I imagine they will. So in total, I probably paid about £320 for the application, but around 270 of that is avoidable, 140 if you can get the fee waived on the application depending on your income, and 130 if you don't go to a private clinic or see a private person about gender things. But yay, it's all done, and it only took me, 2 doctors, a solicitor, and much documentation of a personal nature and money to get there. I know I'm sounding a little bit sarcastic and mildly bitter about the process. I do think it's excessive, but I am also very grateful that it's even an option. And I'm very happy that it's all sorted. Everything says gender male or sex male. Like my birth certificate, it says sex male. I think it's just an M. Can't remember. Gender recognition certificate says gender male. Apparently those terms are actually interchangeable, so we should probably stop splitting hairs over them. I hope this could help people who are just wondering how it works, or are thinking about going through the process themselves, or just who want to learn more about what it's like for trans people in different parts of the world and stuff like that. This is a process in the UK, and it could be a lot easier, and that's what the reform of the Gender Recognition Act is about, is making it simpler, and it wouldn't even get to the point that transphobes should be scared of. Plus, everything that transphobes are actually worried about, aka trans women using women's bathrooms, is covered under the Equality Act, and you don't even need to go near the Gender Recognition Act to be able to do that as a trans person, so it's all silly arguments anyway. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. If there's any topics you want me to talk about, if there's anything more on this topic you'd like me to talk about, then leave your comments down below as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Much love. I'll see you next time. Bye! I did that the wrong way round.